Growing up, I had a lot of games for the original Xbox that I loved to play. Jet Set Radio Future, Conquer Live and Reloaded, GTA San Andreas and Vice City, Halo 2, and so on and so forth. But the one game that I wasn't very good at but was always interested in was Splinter Cell. I don't even think I ever beat the first level, but the incredibly in-depth stealth system, taking into consideration sound and visibility, was always a really cool and different approach to games for me, especially considering the other action games I played. Full disclosure, I can't honestly say that I'm a fan of Splinter Cell myself, it never really took for me, but my dad is a big Tom Clancy fan, and I have always been a fan of Sam Fisher. He's always been cool to me, a rough, gritty, comedic, badass spy commando, more spy and stealth than someone like Snake, who's more of a soldier, and voiced by Michael Ironside to boot. I've watched tons of Splinter Cell videos, I've watched Critical Nobody's retrospective on the series twice, I've watched full stealth playthroughs of the games, and his inclusion in R6 Siege was one of the most hype moments in that series for me, so when Persona Enjoyer, a mod and longtime member on my Discord server, suggested that I play through MGSV as Sam Fisher, I definitely knew that I had to do it. So, here are the rules of the run, if you can even call them rules. I have to beat MGSV as Sam Fisher, meaning two things primarily. I have to approach missions as Sam Fisher would, and my toolset is limited to the weapons and equipment that he uses in the Splinter Cell series. As I mentioned prior, Sam is more of a spy where Snake is more of a soldier, where the Snakes are able to fight supernatural forces and giant Power Ranger mechs and are able to defeat 100 men in a gunfight should their stealthy approach fail. Sam is almost 100% reliant on stealth. Because the Splinter Cell series is a more grounded story, Sam isn't able to shoot his way out of a situation like John Rambo, he's gotta be tactical. He has to rely on low visibility, he's gotta reduce the sound of his footsteps by stepping on specific material, like soft carpets instead of creaky wood, and most importantly for our run, he's gotta hide bodies of incapacitated enemies or risk being caught. That's why, for this run, I'll be making 3 gameplay changes. First, for this run, I'll be primarily playing stealthily. This isn't going to be a perfect stealth run by any means, but even in situations where it'd be much easier to just run and gun, I must make my best effort to take a stealthy approach. The next change is that I'll be turning off reflex mode. Sam isn't a superhuman soldier with supersonic reflexes like MGS characters, so he'll be reacting to getting spotted like the rest of us measly mortals. Third and finally, I'm not allowed to Fulton extract enemy soldiers barring certain exceptions. A big part of the gameplay loop of Splinter Cell is hiding the guards and soldiers that you've knocked unconscious or killed so that enemy forces aren't alerted to your presence. Getting found out would risk a mission failure and jeopardize the veiled existence of the 3rd and later 4th echelon, especially in the original Splinter Cell where getting found out 3 times resulted in an automatic game over. So for this run, unless I have to extract an enemy, I have to try to use the Fulton as little as possible. Instead, I must move and hide bodies to avoid being detected. As for the restricted equipment aspect of the run, I compiled a list of Sam Fisher's most iconic gear from across every game up to Blacklist and his inclusion in Siege, and those will be the guns and items I'm restricted to for this run, barring 3 notable exceptions that I'll explain later. My equipment list is as follows. For Sam Fisher's most iconic weapon, his signature CS-57 handgun, I'll be using a silenced AMD-114 with a flashlight attachment and a laser sight, since the SC-57 is basically just the 5.7 handgun, and the D-114 is the closest to that in specs and ammo caliber, and the SC-57 Fisher uses has a flashlight attachment and the TAC system, which will be represented by the laser sight. For the most advanced version of his equally iconic SC-2000 assault rifle, the SC-3000K from R6 Siege, we'll be using the G44 with its base sight and a silencer. The G44 is the closest gun in the game to an F2000, the gun the SC-2000 and by extension the SC-3000K is based on, and the attachments on the guns are the ones most often or most prominently featured on the gun throughout the series. It also has a flashlight attachment in some games, but Sam can't even use it, so I won't even bother. We also have the Mach 37 with various attachments to represent the MP7 as shown in this series, the Zorn KP grenade launcher handgun for Zero's Gane 6 in Siege, the InScope representing both Sam's binoculars and his TAC, or his tactical audio kit. We'll be replicating the multi-vision goggles with the night vision goggles since they also have thermal vision built in. The sleep grenades will be the sleeping gas, E-stun decoys were as close as I could get to Sam's sticky shockers, sticky EMPs will be represented by EMN mines, Quiet, with her non-lethal sniper rifle, will act as both our sticky cameras and Argus, since the sticky cameras and Argus are very similar in functionality. Quiet's recon capabilities are as close as I could get to a network of deployable cameras. And the Argus in Siege can fire lasers, which will be Quiet's tranks. Empty mags will be our noisemakers. I would have liked to use the silent single-shot trank handgun to replicate the stun gun, but at the time I didn't have the resources to develop it, so instead I used the Zorn KP stun gun. The stun arm will be our taser, incendiary grenades and phosphorus grenades will be represented by our petrol bombs. I couldn't really find a match for the EMP grenades. Smoke grenades are smoke grenades, proximity mines and claymores from Siege are our M21D mines. Proximity shockers will be our LLG mines, since both are proximity-based explosives that knock people unconscious. Frag grenades are hand grenades. The breaching charges from Siege are basically C4. And finally, the closest I could get to the tri-rotor retcon drone was the rocket arm. I can send it airborne and use it to scout out an area. Overall, in addition to a couple of lethal options should the situation call for it, most of Sam's kit reflects his operations style, primarily geared towards stealth, non-lethal incapacitation, distraction, and surveillance. So suffice it to say that this run was very tactical, very stealthy, and very interesting. With the rules outlined, let's go dark and find out if you can beat MGSV as Sam Fisher. Let's start this run where all good runs start: the beginning. For starters, trying to replicate Sam's alpha suit and general appearance as best as possible, we'll be wearing the SV sneaking suit, the uniform that I think looks the closest to Sam's own, and we'll be wearing the headband in place of Sam's ever-present signature night vision goggles. I know there's probably a mod to look like Sam, and someone's probably already commenting about it as I speak, but I'm still playing on Xbox like I have since forever, so I still don't have access to mods for MGSV. This'll have to do. I equip my SC-57 handgun, my taser, my SC-3000K rifle, and as much of my third echelon equipment as possible, and deploy to rescue I meant Miller. After dismounting from D-Horse, I run out to the first outpost on my way to Vilo Village, and true to the Sam Fisher approach, I mark both of my targets, knock out one tango and hide him in a nearby stall, and then interrogate, knock out, and hide the second. After doing recon on Vilo Village, I make my way through to the intel file, but I nearly get spotted. At this point, I hadn't thought of the no reflex mode rule, so reflex mode bailed me out as I dispatched the hostile with my SC-57 and knocked out the remaining oblivious enemy before he could react. After cleaning up my mess, I was able to scan the intel files, get Miller's location, and then escape the village undetected. It was at this point that I turned off reflex mode for the rest of the run, and then made my way to Guande. I had the idea to turn off reflex mode since, for the duration of the entire run, I was also watching a full stealth playthrough of the OG Splinter Cell game to get me into the mindset of Sam Fisher.
I told you long ago on the road, I got what they waiting for.
Guess it worked. After doing some recon, I snuck my way through to Miller, had a couple of close calls that I barely managed to keep a lid on, and then, after almost getting found out a couple of times, I made it out with Miller in a bit of an admittedly sloppy escape. Getting past the skulls took a bit of trial and error. I actually just got told recently that you can dump Miller into a trash can, which apparently makes him impervious. But I knew that, for a Sam Fisher run, I wanted to try to sneak past them by merit of stealth alone, so after a reset, that's exactly what I did. For a hero's way, I swapped D-Horse for Quiet, deployed and made my way to Shago Village, scouted out guard patrols, located my target, and then I stealthily made my way to said target, knocked him and the Soviets he was meeting with out with sleeping gas, and I executed the target, completing the mission. I was able to remain completely undetected just like Sam Fisher, but unfortunately, due to a stupid mistake right at the end, where I stood up and got spotted as I was exfiltrating the hot zone, I wasn't able to make it all the way through with perfect stealth. This whole thing of having a perfect run go to shit right at the last second would become regrettably common during this run. For C2W, I thought it would be more on brand to actually do the mission normally, as opposed to completing it before I was even assigned the objective, since the Splinter Cell gameplay loop is get assigned mission, do mission, exfiltrate, as opposed to Sam having any time, or inclination, or even ability to complete tasks before assigned. On my first attempt sneaking through the facility, I was able to go largely undetected and even use my SC-57 to shoot out a nearby light bulb, but this soldier was unfortunately able to spot me with the natural lighting. On my second go-through, I take out the incoming patrol, hide the mess, cause a commotion with a phosphorus grenade, sneak past all the guards and make it to the comm system after distracting them, dim the lights, hide under the bed like the boogeyman, and blow up the radio with a frag grenade. Amidst the chaos, I distract a guard with a noisemaker to get him to move, I execute 2 tangos in my way, and I successfully escape the area with nobody the wiser. Over the fence was actually really great. I accidentally blew it once, but the successful run was one I was really proud of. I've got to infiltrate Waksan barracks to rescue the Soviet engineer that designed my taser, so as I approach the base camp, I use my Argus to knock out any guards patrolling the entrance, slip into the camp from this side entrance, knock out the power and place a proximity mine nearby as a nice little surprise for whoever comes to kick the power back on, and as I'm making it to the area where the engineer is being held, I almost get spotted, but with perfect timing, the claymore goes off and takes out both the power and the guy that came to get the lights back on. Now in perfect darkness, and the guards distracted by that explosion, I'm able to slip into the building no problem. The reason this run got scrapped was because I tried that trick again with a second power generator, accidentally blew myself up with my own proximity mine, and then got spotted, so I restarted the whole mission since that wasn't very Sam Fisher of me. For the second time around, I basically do the same thing, but with more confidence this time since I've played out that approach and I know it has a high chance of success. When I make it inside this time from a side entrance, I properly rig the generator trap this time, barely slip past this guard, and use my Argus cameras to cover my escape. Mission accomplished.
The engineer.
Where Do the Bees Sleep was another mission that took some doing, but when I figured it out, it was actually pretty fun and smooth. As I was passing the first outpost, I took out the watchtower guard with an incendiary grenade since he had a high chance of spotting me as I was passing, and an incendiary grenade requires less accuracy than a bullet, but makes less noise than a frag. Then at the relay base, I stunned a couple guards with my taser, set up the old Claymore generator trap, and used my taser to take out the last couple of nosy guards that almost spotted me on the way out. I had a bit of trouble getting into Fort Samase, but after knocking out the lights, I was able to get past these 2 dolts pretty easily. After sneaking into the camp with no witnesses, well, no living ones anyway, I try a couple of different approaches to getting to the honeybee, including considering extracting the mute prisoner via chopper and then coming back in order to avoid Fultoning as much as possible, but I eventually settled on this. I knock out the prisoner's guards with my taser, Fulton the prisoner for intel, and take out the inbound patrol with a phosphorus grenade since the choice between leaving a witness or a body is no choice at all. I would have liked not to Fulton extract, but this was one of those exceptions I mentioned earlier in the rules. Sam's a pragmatic guy. It's arguably one of his most defining traits. So while I don't want to exercise this line of thought to justify using anything I want, which would in turn make the run too easy, I think it's reasonable to assume that if Fisher had Fulton balloons and needed to extract someone from a mission area, he would use them. Again, not gonna do this often, but friendlies and some required non-friendlies are getting Fultoned. Any non-essential hostiles will get dropped and hidden or left. After securing the honeybee, I was able to make it out of the fort, but was intercepted by a Gundam and this Phantom of the Opera wannabe. Since Sam knows when to hold him, knows when to fold him, and knows when to walk away, when the skulls show up and start jumping around with a 20-foot standing vertical, I think it's reasonable to believe that Sam would just
Get the fuck out of there!
Next up, Red Brass went stunningly well, and I think I did it in a very Sam Fisher way. First, using nothing but my noisemakers, I was able to distract and knock out all the guards at the initial outpost, but the last guard I interrogated for the location of one of the 3 commanders I was here to eliminate, and I was told that he'd actually be driving through this outpost to get to Vilo Village, so I set up some sticky EMPs on the road to stop his transport to the village so that I could eliminate him in seclusion. Things didn't go quite to plan, as his driver spotted one of the soldiers I rendered unconscious, but since they stopped to investigate and we were far enough from the village that a bomb could go off and nobody'd know, I just took them out, the commander, the guards, the truck and all, with a frag grenade. Sneaking into Vilo Village was a little more tricky and didn't go quite as smoothly. I attempted to sneak up behind this tango, but because of my thermals and the trash can fire he was standing by, I couldn't quite tell if he was facing forward or backwards, and he almost spotted me. Luckily, I distracted him with a noisemaker, got the meeting location of the commanders out of him, and sent him to bed. After identifying the second commander, I took him out from the shadows with a frag grenade, also knocking out the lights in the process. But in trying to interrogate a soldier for the location of the last target, I got spotted and all hell broke loose. Luckily, I almost immediately found the last commander, used Argus to dispatch all of his bodyguards, put him to sleep, and made sure he'd never wake up again with an explosive finish to the mission. Occupation Forces was generally pretty typical tradecraft until the end, where I had to improvise a bit. Knowing that the Colonel's convoy was going to take this road through Sakurai Village, I made sure to place down a couple of gifts for them as they go along their merry way, and then I infiltrated the village to gather the intel files about said convoy. Sneaking through went awry pretty quickly when these two clowns spotted me in the dark, but luckily I was able to salvage the attempt by putting them down with the SC-3000K faster than they could reach for a gun or a radio. After that, I was able to reach the documents no problem, and though I got spotted on my way to the convoy and had to restart from a checkpoint, my second go went much better. I set up the old proximity mine generator trick, I domed some sad sap that nearly spotted me with the SC-3000K, the Claymore got some sucker, and this is where things got interesting. See, when the Claymore knocked out the power and blew a man to smithereens, that got the village to call a combat alert. That combat alert made the convoy stop before proceeding through a potentially compromised area, and not only did their stopping give me an opportunity to take out the first tank in the convoy with 6 frag grenades, and not only was I able to do that while remaining hidden, but the Colonel's driver then panicked and drove right into those sticky EMPs I set up earlier, which then stopped the truck and knocked them both out, at which point I reconnected the Colonel to the Wi-Fi in the sky. Then after crawling up to a ridgeline next to the last remaining tank, I gave it the exact same treatment I gave the first. 6 frags right down the pipeline from the shadows. That's all she wrote. BUBD was a bit of a pain since Sam is ill-equipped to handle armored vehicles, but I set up my sticky EMPs, Fultoned out a couple of tanks to conserve my explosives for more actually mobile vehicles, used Argus, a sticky shocker, and the 3000K to take out these guys, I hid their corpses, I Fultoned this prisoner, and I used their jeep as a roadblock. The next couple of AVs came to a shocking halt, so I gave them a lift, but the next vehicle was coming, and I didn't really have anything left to stop it, so I quickly ran over to the incoming truck with the CMG-25 in the back, relieved the driver of the truck of his brains and the launcher, since he wasn't using either, and then I used said launcher to take out the steadfast approaching ton of tungsten on wheels. With less than a minute on the clock and 2 tangos approaching, I perched up on a nearby ledge and took out both targets with exactly 1 second and 69 milliseconds remaining on the clock. Nice. Also, of course, the use of the CMG would fall into the purview of those exceptions in the item restrictions from earlier. If the commies want to give me a missile launcher and I don't have anything better to complete the mission with, then who am I to turn my nose up at the offer? Angel with Broken Wings was really business as usual. I tried taking the slow, methodical approach, but the prison convoy left before I could stop them, and I think Sam would rather nip the mission in the bud before it gets a chance to become something less contained. So for my next attempt, I used sticky EMPs to take out the prison transport vehicle, I used frag grenades to blow up the following AV, and I rescued Malik and exfiltrated. I kinda felt bad letting the prisoners in Kahate Palace die, but we've seen before that Fisher isn't a good man in the traditional sense. He will let innocents die if it means achieving the mission. The fight against Quiet and Cloaked Silence was actually pretty tough this time around since I usually have access to some kind of sniper rifle to trade with her, or I have some kind of tool or power to even the playing field, but Sam's just not built for supernatural sniper battles. After roughly 45 minutes of trading shots with her with my SC-3000K and then my SC-57, I finally took her out and completed the mission. After this, let's say, interesting silent film? You're hearing the original audio here. We're off to Hellbound to extract hated traitor and local guy who pisses his pants, Dr. Huey Hallelujah Emmerich, the loser to design Metal Gear. After traitor gets manhandled and taken back to the Afghan central base camp like a baby, I'm hot on his trail. Hellbound is fun for this run since both getting out of the initial camp and getting into the central base camp are a lot more like an actual Splinter Cell level. A specific area with patrolling guards, cameras, lights, and lots of places to hide. In any event, after using my taser to knock out a couple of guards, I slip past the gunship when a sandstorm kicks up and make it out of the initial base. I knock out a couple more Soviets along the road to the base camp until I finally arrive. After some light recon, I sneak into the camp and set up the proximity mine generator trick and begin crawling my way around to Emmerich while their attention is drawn to the other side of the base. Unfortunately, I get spotted taking my usual route through even though I tried to conceal myself with smoke grenades, but after resetting from a checkpoint and doing everything the same again, I this time avoid detection long enough for the smoke grenades to bail me out, at which point I'm able to crawl my way to Emmerich's lab completely undetected.
Who are you?
Fisher?
Are you?
Dr. Emmerich.
Fisher.
I ignore Emmerich since I don't really need his wind-up toys, and 500 meters really isn't that far. Emmerich fails to gaslight me, quite possibly as horribly as anyone ever has, and I escape the camp without getting into any engagements. Since I don't think that it's realistic for Sam to outrun a Metal Gear, I tried to escape it with Emmerich on a nearby stolen truck, but that goes very sideways very quickly, I almost die, and Emmerich gets knocked out of the truck. As nice as it would have been to just leave his miserable ass behind, it is the mission objective to rescue him.
Boss, don't forget Emmerich. Boss, don't forget Emmerich. Boss, don't forget Emmerich.
Do you know who you're dealing with?
So I lose the tail, try to sneak back around to Emmerich, but accidentally use sleeping gas instead of a smoke grenade, which knocks me out and then causes me to get spotted. Lose Sahelanthropus again, pick up Emmerich again, slip past the big lug, and exfiltrate before it's any the wiser. After giving Huey a bath because he stinks, I was being deployed to Central Africa in pitch dark, and for this halfway point, I decided to switch up the gear a bit. I traded in my SC-57 for a stun gun, and I swapped my taser out for a recon drone. My first deployment fails instantly, but after restarting, I scout out the area with the recon drone, which gives me the layout and patrol knowledge to sneak through the initial outpost undetected, also due in large part to Argus. I appropriated this enemy vehicle while Lambert yaps in my ear about Saner and Unida, and then I slip into Mephindo Oilfield like a ghost. I use the recon drone to map out my path of egress and make the trip a little smoother with some sticky shockers. After hitting the emergency stop button on the transfer pump controller, I get caught spending a little too much time playing with my new drone, so I instead head to the tanker using a more traditional approach. The tanker's got a lot of guards in front of it, but conveniently no guards in the back where I slip in. So that I can take care of the tanker in private, I take out one guard with a sticky shocker and take out another with a good old triangle choke, but another guard shows up. I try to take him out with a sticky shocker, but he kinda spots me a little and gets suspicious, so I dome him with my SC-3000K, and good thing too, because a previously unknown fourth guard arrives on scene and the sticky shocker takes him out. I owe the big man upstairs for that one. After discreetly dealing with the tanker using a handful of frag grenades, I managed to escape out of the camp in exfil with nobody spotting me. Lingua Franca's up next, so we've got to rescue the Viscount. This one goes largely smoothly, other than a minor snag halfway through. I use my drone to get the who's who, extract a non-Viscount prisoner, tail the interpreter to the next prisoner, sit through their yapping in the pouring cold rain, and save the second prisoner. This is where things don't go quite to plan. See, I did a bit of surveillance before blindly rushing into this well-fortified camp, but I take too long, which costs a prisoner her life. So now I've got to get into this shack for the intel documents, but because of the commotion I had to cause to get in there, everyone's on high alert. So of course that's when I choose to be stupid and try this weird thing where I take out the interpreter and his guard with a claymore, which of course fails horribly because he instantly spots me 2 feet away as I try to lure them into the trap with noisemakers. After reloading from a checkpoint and not being an idiot this time, I knock out all the lights, cause a commotion with a claymore away from the third prisoner, which allows me to extract them while the guards are distracted. And this time, I just set up claymores on the interpreter's path, blew him up, and extracted the Viscount via chopper. Footprints of Phantoms was actually the dark horse for the most annoying mission of the run. I wanted to be as stealthy and tactical here as possible, so I cut right through the camp and snuck past everyone, but every time I did, something went wrong. First time I got spotted while saving a hostage, then I snuck through the camp perfectly, blew up 1, 2, 3 walker gears and exfiltrated without finishing off the fourth and final one, then I just got spotted, then I got spotted hiding a body, and then finally, after setting myself on fire with an incendiary grenade, I was able to take out the fourth and final gear with my Gane 6. Trader's Caravan was also quite difficult because of the skulls, of course, but the game plan was largely the same as always. Cut the truck off at Nova Braga before it starts its route. After a couple of less than successful attempts to get past the skulls, like using smoke grenades and noisemakers, both of which resulted in the truck getting blown up, I eventually just try to use the fact that the skulls constantly move towards you even without being aware of your presence to draw them away from the truck, but I got spotted making my way back around to the truck, so I just hopped in and tried to drive it away, but I capsized it not but 10 feet out of the airport. It was at this point that I finally lost my patience and just blew up all of the skulls with my Gane 6 and just exfilled on the truck. Rescue the intel agents was much smoother and much more Splinter Cell core comparatively. I easily located the first agent using my multivision goggles and extracted him via Fulton, and then I tried to crawl over to the next agent, but nearly got caught since I was almost spotted and tried to cover myself with a smoke grenade, but the grenade didn't go off because it landed in water, so I had to take the soldiers out that spotted me with the SC-3000K, and then I made it to the other agent, covered my escape with some smoke grenades, and exfilled with the last agent. Blood Runs Deep is easily my best mission in this game because I've run it so many times, so even my worst run is going to be half decent. I deploy, cause some mayhem at the front of the enemy camp to draw attention, take out the first target with a phosphorus grenade and slip out of the camp unnoticed, and I made it to Kunganga Mine. I instantly get spotted by a spotlight guard, go figure, but after reloading, I was able to sneak my way all the way through the entire mine camp and release the child soldiers. I decided to play the mission all the way out without just Fultoning the kids, since this mission is actually pretty accommodating to a chopper extraction, all things considered. After cooking the first couple of soldiers alive with incendiary grenades, I come up with the strategy of knocking soldiers out with my stun gun and then waking them up with a frag grenade alarm clock so that they don't wake up and kill the kids when I'm not looking. There were a couple of times when things went ass up, but after playing an entire game of baseball using frag grenades and surprisingly not drawing a crowd, I make it to the final section. The kids almost get caught, but luckily I can just use my stun gun to knock out the last obstacle, at which point I load all the kiddos up onto the P-Quad and get out of there.
No, there's no room.
On the trail took a little trial and error. I EMP'd the major's subordinate at first, which, you can't do, or else the major will call off the meeting and run away. So for round 2, I slipped past the subordinate, got to the major, and killed him and all of his cronies with incendiary grenades. When Lambert bitched at me about losing the major's intel, I felt bad and felt like Fisher maybe would have gotten the intel, so I reloaded. This time I knocked them all out with sleeping gas, interrogated the major, and then take him out, but Lambert still wasn't satisfied, so I went back again and used sleeping gas again, but this time I exfiltrated the hot zone via chopper with the major in tow. On to voices now. I really enjoyed this mission and felt like I did Sam Fisher proud. I completely snuck past the Ungumba industrial zone with nothing even resembling getting spotted, and even managed to pull off the proximity mine generator strat while I was there. The Misty Valley leading up to the Devil's House got a little dicey, but I was able to get past everyone only using noisemakers. After slipping past the last guard, I made it into the building, listened to some jams, and then got into another fight with another supernatural monster person. I absolutely clowned Volgan here. I ran to the tunnel, it blew up, I literally just hid from him, called in a chopper on the other side of the field, and he couldn't land a single attack on my chopper as he watched me exfiltrate. It was honestly kind of hilarious. The war economy was a little frustrating because, for my first run, I did all the awesome spy stuff. I used my recon drone to get the lay of the land, I took out the lookout, used a smoke grenade to get past a camera without damaging it, interrogated and knocked people out, and crawled all the way to the main building undetected, but because all of that took so long, I lost track of the targets and couldn't get their location no matter how many interrogations I did, and eventually I got spotted while aimlessly looking for them. As if that wasn't bad enough, the proper way went upside down, but when I kinda just went in and rushed the CFA official and the arms dealer, I got to the building while they were both in the same room together, right next to each other, so I just domed both of them with the SC-3000K. Just goes to show that the only thing worse than a man who's too sure of himself is one that's not sure at all. But I get spotted by the gunship right at the end anyway. Like I said, a lot of missions where everything went sour right at the final hour. Retake the platform was annoying because I kept getting caught at the most inopportune times, but I fixed that with some liberal use of the sticky shockers and the SC-3000K, which got me all the way to the main platform before I got spotted by a guy who instant transmissioned behind me out of nowhere. 2 missions in a row where things go rotten far enough into the mission that I'm unwilling to restart. Ain't that something? Tired of the BS at this point, I just used my Gane 6, exploded my way to the top of the platform, and blew up Mosquito. White Mamba was another pretty much flawless Splinter Cell mission with a little bit of a surprise twist at the end that made me chuckle. Getting past this initial outpost gave me a bit of a hard time, but when things all went according to plan, I incapacitated the kids with smoke grenades and knocked them all out. I continued to do the same thing at Eli's camp, in addition to using Argus to put the kiddos to sleep as well, and when I made it to Eli, I started the fight by lobbing a smoke grenade at him, which blinded him and made him vulnerable, which in turn allowed me to instantly take him down in CQC rather than having to trade blows with him as per normal. Not initially knowing that that's how that works, with a big stupid grin on my face, I proceeded to continue to do this over and over until I lost track of him, but then suddenly Lambert alerts me to the fact that the mission's been accomplished. I was confused, but when he says, "School's out," I instantly realized what had happened. I lost track of Eli because he was hiding at the top of the ship, but since there's no cover up there and it's a highly visible vantage point, Argus zapped him with a laser and knocked him out. Fantastic ending. I really enjoyed that mission from start to finish. Close Contact was another mission that didn't have any snags, and all went slow and smooth and fast. After arriving on site and identifying the targets for extraction, I literally just threw out all 8 of my sticky shockers to distract and stun everyone, and I just Fultoned one scientist and exfilled by Chopper with the other one. For Aim True Ye Vengeful, again, I just kinda rolled into the outpost, dropped the child soldier target with Argus, snagged the adult target, dropped the incoming patrol with my stun gun, and then exfiltrated. Easy as. Hunting down went haywire when I got spotted the first time I tried it, but it was easy enough to find the tracker at night with multivision goggles and the recon drone, and once I found him, I nuked him with the Gane 6 and got out of there. For root cause, I knew I only had minutes before my man made his escape attempt, which I knew would result in a chase and a crash, so I blitzed in as stealthily as possible by blowing up everyone with my handheld grenade launcher. I was just barely able to snag the guy out of the truck before he made a mistake he couldn't unmake, and then I exfilled with no problems. The Gane 6 was a bit excessive, and it was cutting it a bit close, but mission accomplished, and accomplished well. For Code Talker, I of course completely avoided engaging the sniper skulls by sneaking past them. Sam would definitely avoid an engagement with a supernatural soldier, and I had a hard enough time against just Quiet. And then when I got to the mansion, I avoid detection, interrogate the mansion entrance and hide my source, knock out the entrance guards with sleeping gas, and get inside like a ninja. After that, it doesn't take very long for me to find what I'm looking for after evading a couple of guards and removing them as potential future obstacles. When I grab the old Dene, the sniper skulls relocate to the mansion and turn all the soldiers into zombies, which makes escaping significantly easier since zombies can't combat alert you, they can't use weapons, and they certainly don't stand up well against phosphorus or fragmentation. Metallic Archaea was, as per usual, simple if not easy. As soon as the fight started, I lured all the skulls out to the middle of the airfield and fought them how I think Sam would, with an anti-air gun and a mounted machine gun. After dropping 3 of them, I confused the last one with my sticky shockers and finished him off with incendiary grenades and frag grenades. That was a lot easier than I thought it'd be. With everyone at Mother Base cured and Huey well tortured, we were off to face off against Skullface in the mission, well, Skullface. This mission was an absolute masterclass, one of the few times in MGSV where it actually felt like a Splinter Cell mission, and, of all the few missions that actually felt like Splinter Cell in terms of level design, this one was by far the best. As I was crawling up to OKB-0, a sniper nearly spotted me, but I was able to use the terrain to avoid detection and continue up. I had one more close call before making it to the actual compound proper, where even my noisemaker wasn't saving me, but I was able to distract the guards with Argus and slink into the base. After scouting out everyone past the first gate, I stuck to the leftmost wall and took out patrolling guards and lights as needed to remain in the darkness. After distracting the last of the guards before making it to the second gate with a noisemaker, I was able to sneak past them and everyone else and climb over the second gate. This area gave me a bit of trouble because of all the foot traffic and my inability to rely on either my drone or my sticky cameras, and I did get into trouble several times. But after a couple of restarts, because I wanted to give this tailor-made Splinter Cell section the stealthy respect that it deserved, I was able to crawl out of the area unnoticed and followed these 2 bozos to the final gate. When 3 got to be a crowd, I sent them on their merry way with a noisemaker and slipped past the final gate after making sure this last walker gear wasn't looking in my direction. That was really damn fun. That, out of everything else in the entire run, felt the most like those original 2002 Splinter Cell memories I had, but this time I was actually half decent. For the Sahelanthropus boss fight, I pretty much went in with my SC-3000K and my Gane 6 for as much damage as possible and did the fight as per usual. Considering that Sam's forte is tactical stealth and espionage, this was a largely uneventful fight compared to, say, Naked Snake, or Raiden, or even Grey Fox. I pretty much just ran around, shot at Saheli until I ran out of ammo, swapped weapons, went and grabbed the resupply drop, dumped my secondary into the Metal Gear, rinse and repeat. It went to shit once when a stray railgun shot somehow hit me behind cover, probably just barely clipped me with AoE or something, but Saheli wasn't so lucky in round 2, and I finished him off largely with ease. Winding down now with To Know Too Much, we're headed back to Afghanistan with the SC-57, but this time, we're gonna go in an outfit reminiscent of the one Sam wore in the final mission of the Splinter Cell 2002 game, where he finally assassinated Combane Nicolodz. We're gonna be rocking the balaclava and the MGSV sneaking suit. At first I got spotted running to the CIA agent to extract him before the walker gears got to him, but on the second run, I distracted the guards at the outpost by setting a nearby patrol on fire with an incendiary grenade, and then proceeded to give all the walker gears searching for the CIA agent the same treatment after picking him up, since their armor can't defend them from fire and we needed a clear extraction point. Cursed Legacy was also incredibly smooth, a lot smoother than times I've done it for other runs for sure. After completely bypassing the mansion with no engagements, I sleeping gassed the guys by the intel files on the cargo's location, blew out a bridge that an incoming patrol was using to prevent them from getting to me or finding the bodies, secured one of the cargo crates, and then used sleeping gas to knock out all the mercs guarding the last container before extracting it and then exfiltrating by chopper. Too easy. Maybe I'll break a sweat next time. When snagging the film canister for Extraordinary, my exact order of operations took a little figuring out, but in the complete opposite extreme to Cursed Legacy, where I largely went through the mission without making any noise, save for the frag that I used to blow out the bridge, this mission was characterized by my use of so many frags that there wasn't a soul left alive at Spugmay Keep to spot me. I casually grabbed the film canister with nobody else around and exfiltrated from the hot zone. Proxy War Without End was just the worst, easily my least favorite experience from this run. Like I said, Sam just ain't built for fighting tanks, y'all. It took a couple dozen times to get the start of the mission right, since this fork in the road, where I wanted to ambush the first 2 AVs I wanted to take out, is about 250 meters from where I drop, but by the time I get to the fork, the tanks are then less than 200 meters away, so I'd have seconds to set up the sticky EMPs, and every time I did it, for almost an hour straight, I ended up getting spotted by one of the tanks somehow and had to restart because Sam is not beating AVs in an open fight. Eventually I was able to nab this AV while it was knocked out. I launched a couple Gane 6 grenades at this AV without being able to finish it off. I grabbed this AV, and I Fultoned the AV I damaged earlier, but this tank gets spooked and runs away, and while chasing it down, I got spotted by the gunship. After just reloading from a checkpoint at this point, I was able to Fulton the tank before it escaped, and when it finally came to taking down the chopper, since I didn't have anything powerful enough to reliably take it down, I used my Argus to ricochet my frag grenades into the gunship, and I was actually able to down it without getting spotted. Last but not least, a quiet exit was anything but. I pretty much just used the rocket launcher I was given to fight off the tanks in the first wave, and then when Super Tank shows up and starts one-shotting me, I honestly just called in the Pequod to take the last of the tanks out, and then I chased the gunship away with Argus ricocheted frags. Not exactly a Splinter Cell high note to end on, but I got my fill on Skullface. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the run. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I definitely did. Metal Gear is a series a little more inclined to action, a la 80s and 90s action movies, where the protagonist solos an entire army in open warfare, whereas Splinter Cell takes a more realistic approach to tactical espionage, where, for the longest time, just getting noticed was a death sentence. I say that to say, there were a lot of missions in MGSV where I just couldn't really play as Sam Fisher in terms of playstyle and mindset, but for the ones that I could, the missions emphasizing the crossover between the stealth of MGS and the stealth of Splinter Cell, I really enjoyed taking the stealthy approach. Like, I know any nerd with enough time on their hands can perfect stealth the entire game. I basically did it to S-rank all the missions for the Raiden suit. But a natural, casual stealthy approach where you just use your tools and lighting and visibility and sound and all that stuff to avoid detection as you come across certain obstacles during your mission is actually a really fun experience. To MGSV's credit, the game's stealth is a very in-depth system. So much like in Splinter Cell, it felt very rewarding to outsmart my enemies by using my tools and my environment to sneak past them, with the only major difference between MGSV and Splinter Cell in that regard being that open combat is a lot more viable in MGSV, where you're a supernatural soldier fighting, Metal Gear killing super soldier mercenary. Alright everyone, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this, especially everyone waiting for more MGS content and constantly nagging me about it, and an especially warm thank you to Persona Enjoyer for their request. I think I'm planning for my next Metal Gear run to be in Metal Gear Solid Delta, but probably don't expect that for a while, being that other people on the channel are waiting for more content for other series, like for my next run, which will be Cyberpunk. As I said, thank you guys for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.